Hey everybody, Gatsby here, and welcome to the clubfradio.wave podcast. You'll probably notice as you listen to this podcast that every time I speak, it's a little blown out. I want to apologize for that. I thought I had my mic set up correctly, and apparently I didn't. I'm very used to having my face as close to the mic as possible to get the clearest audio, and it was clearly recording at a higher volume, so it really only makes my obsessive passion about Pokemon that much more obnoxious to listen to. So just ignore me when I'm talking and listen to Chase whenever he has a very valid point to add. The clubfradio.wave podcast is sponsored by listeners like you who pledge to us on Patreon at the Undead Host tier, as well as people who buy a podcast ticket on our store. If you have one of these benefits, you're able to listen to us live and ask questions during the podcast. You can also provide a radio ad for us to read live on air. So without further ado, here's a public service announcement from the Mr. Mayo. For those interested in music, don't forget Mayo's Music and Hang-A-Lang during random Fridays and Saturdays. All critiques appreciated. Sit back, relax, and cruise the soothes of music with Mayo. Welcome everybody to the clubfradio.wave podcast. This is the first one since we started the podcast back up that's just me and Chase. So is it? Yeah, we have not done a just you and me one since the very first Club F Radio Wave, and it wasn't even named for the very first one. The very first one was just, hey, this is a podcast that we're not sure if we're going to keep the old name or if we're going to have a new name. Oh, yeah. How about it?
I'm cold. Let's get this show on the road.
Why, you going to warm up the more we talk?
Yeah.
All right.
That works.
Okay. Well, we have gone through a couple of possible different topics to do for this month, but what we really went ahead with this month, since Chase this month beat Pokemon Sword, and because
twice.
I haven't beat it, but I have started playing it. I'm near the end now, so since we both have the game and have been playing it significantly, we really wanted to talk about Pokemon as a whole, and we want to talk about Pokemon Sword and relevant additional topics. So first and foremost, I guess we should probably talk about our origins with Pokemon, I guess. And if you don't have anything really nostalgic to talk about, I could ramble about this for a little bit, because like that Pokemon to me is like the core of being bullied for my interests.
Yeah, I know that. I know one of the stories you like to tell is when you moved from your childhood area to my area, that everybody seemed to be cool about video games. That wasn't the case with Pokemon. Like, Pokemon was the gay video game for our area. No one liked Pokemon except outside of our little clique. Yeah. So I feel you there.
Mm-hmm. And a little heads up for the terminology you're going to hear today. I think because we are taking a trip down memory lane, you're gonna hear what it's like to be a millennial growing up with video games. You can okay boomer all you want, but we were called fags for liking Pokemon. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a ridiculous thing too, like an absolutely ridiculous thing, because there were very few games that I got that fucking excited for, and my problem was I wanted other people to like it too. Like, I had a small handful of other boys in my class, and that we didn't share any interests, and for some reason my attitude towards that was, well, if I educate them, then it will get better. Like, so I was like coming to school with the fucking Lunchables trading cards, like not even the real trading cards, but the ones that you like perforated out of the back of a fucking pizza box, and just being like, this one's Zubat. And they were like, oh yeah, that's fucking Zubat.
Oh yeah. You know what's funny is I can't even remember how I got into Pokemon. Like, I can't remember exactly why I asked for it for Christmas. I can
remember pretty vividly. So I had not asked for any of the games yet, but I would watch Kids WB, and one day I tuned into Kids WB, and it was the Pokemon anime, and it was about Paris and Parasect, and you know, Ash discovered the Paris and the Parasect, and he did the little Pokedex thing, and it gave the description of what it does, and I'm sure there were battles and stuff like that, and I was just enamored. weird because like I honestly hadn't seen that much anime at that point. Like I'd seen like Sailor Moon and shit like that, and I'd seen early Dragon Ball because some like local networks actually did have the rights to play early Dragon Ball before Toonami got it. And so I got that and I was really interested in it. And so then I started talking to my only friend who played video games. So he talked about this. I didn't have any friends that played video games. I had one friend that played video games. And he was that kid that like his parents bought him every fucking toy he wanted. So like he was the cool friend to go over and hang out with. And he played Pokemon and he bought both versions. And like to give you an equivalent, if you didn't grow up in the 90s, for me, the kid with both versions was just the fucking bougiest kid. like why?
That was me.
Like why? Like I just remember being like, why do you have both versions? And it's so funny to me now because I thought he was so badass growing up. As an adult, it's just like you're supposed to trade with friends, and he's just like, no, I just bought both versions. I trade with myself.
Yeah, I also had both versions. Not to get sad all of a sudden, but like growing up, I was that kid. Everybody wanted to be my friend because I had all the cool shit, and I didn't realize this until much later. But the reason I had all the cool shit, the reason Dad bought me basically anything I ever wanted, was because my mother died when I was like 5 years old. So I got a check every month for a certain amount of money that I didn't know about because I was a kid. So like that's where all that shit came from. So I didn't know that until like way later in life, right? Because a kid doesn't need to know that.
Yeah.
so that's where all my school clothes came from. That's where like I had my own money that Dad managed.
Yeah.
In a sense. So when I asked for something for Christmas, I fucking got it because it came out of that money. So I got both versions of red and blue, and then I got yellow, and then I got gold and silver, and then after that I stopped getting two versions.
Incidentally, this is giving you some forbidden lore because this is part of why I've always kind of considered myself like the alternate universe version of Chase, because my dad died when I was young and I got a check for that. So like we were both in weirdly like similar circumstances on the opposite side of the same coin, and that's why Chase and I have had this conversation multiple times. Why I've justified why our personalities are so different is that for the most part Chase was raised by a single father, and for the most part I was raised by a single mother, and I really do think that we're both just like, what happens when you run that experiment? But not to dig into that too far because we're supposed to be talking about fucking Pokemon tonight. So yeah, I was really jealous of my friend Chris, who had both versions, and he would be the one that told all the bullshit rumors my dad works at Nintendo, and that's where my dad works at Nintendo comes from. Like you'll hear people our age make that joke because it is just a universal concept that there's going to be that one asshole kid who just makes up bullshit rumors, and when you're like, that's not true, that's not a thing, it's like, no, my uncle is different little like urban legend things that we would try to do. You were supposed to use strength on the truck to get Mew and shit like that. And Chase's favorite thing that he won't let go of.
Which favorite? What?
How do you catch Pokemon better, Chase?
Oh God, you fuck off! You hold down and B, and it works.
It does not.
It absolutely does.
It makes no significant difference.
It absolutely matters. Don't you let this man lie to you. Now I tell you what doesn't matter. It makes you look like an absolute jackass. Is saying "gotcha" into the mic on your fucking DS. That don't work. But being down, yeah, that's for the pros.
Sure. I love that those rumors keep popping up, though. I really do like that. And to slide away from that for a second, I like that the newer games have added really fucking weird ass things that you can do to get unlockables that feel kind of like that kind of shit. But we'll get to that when we can. All right, I got a couple questions for you. Did you ever have a plush Pikachu?
I don't think I ever had a plush Pokemon at all.
Yeah, all right, I did. And I was that guy too old for stuffed animals that would carry it around in the public world.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I ever had a stuffed Pokemon.
I think the way I would justify it to myself is that I had not had that experience. Like, I had never had an imaginary friend, and even though I was too old for one, I wanted to enjoy the experience of pretending like Pokemon were real and pretending like I had a fucking Pikachu. But eventually, I did reach that point where I was like, I'm embarrassing my mom. Like,
I had toys. Like, I had like toy Pokeballs and things like you'd get in Happy Meals and shit. I had the Pokédex too, because that thing was fucking dope.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I still have it. It's right here within reach, actually.
Yep. Yeah, that thing was really neat. I remember I didn't really like them iterating on it. I don't know why, but whenever they'd be like, well, it looks like this in this game, I'd be like, no, it doesn't.
Hold on. How old were we when Red and Blue came out? I need to know.
I think Pokemon Red and Blue came out in 1998.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So we were 10.
Yeah. So Chase and I were both born in 1988. That's why some of the bro-op branding has copyright 1988 on it. It's kind of a common number for a lot of our friends. You know, we hung out in the same grade, so obviously we had similar ages. So that's kind of the demographic you're looking at here. And let's see. Chase and I have a very different history of how we played Pokemon.
Yeah.
Chase makes fun of me about this, and that's all right. It's okay. But the whole battle mechanic in Pokemon is once they see you, you battle. And so my understanding was, so it's a stealth game. Like, I'm supposed to try to avoid them.
It's a stealth game.
That's how it feels. It's just how it fucking feels. And so I don't remember having problems with like grinding. I don't, but like sometimes I would avoid battles, and I think it's because I was also an idiot and I would get trapped in caves and not know how to get the fuck out. So I would fight wild Pokemon a lot. But meanwhile, Chase has always been the person that's just like, yeah, you're not done until you've killed every living thing in the fucking 100 square miles of the island.
That's right.
So that's mostly my my young experience with it. Did you have the walking toy, like the little Pikachu walking toy that like counted your steps?
Was it also like a Digi or like
it looked like
Tamagotchi?
a Digivice. It looked like a Tamagotchi Digivice.
I don't think I had that. I had the Pikachu and the Charmander watches though that would talk to you.
I had those,
but I don't think I had the little Pikachu walking thing.
We both collected the cards.
Yes, I still have an unopened Ancient Mew from seeing the first movie. It's still wrapped in plastic. It's never, it hasn't touched air since it was put in that package. I also have a holographic first edition Charizard that's in a glass case. And unfortunately, that's the only ones that remain of my collection because mine got destroyed in like a freak accident flood type situation. So they all got destroyed by water. Yeah. I have those too.
Yeah. Likewise, I have a small binder of the ones that I collected. I think I've only played the actual collectible card game like twice. But my mom actually heavily encouraged me to collect Pokemon cards, which is really strange because previously she was very bitter about my interests in video games and all things anime and stuff like that. I think she had a lot of pressure from the family. They kept telling her, if you let that boy do that, you're gonna make him gay. Like, so like she didn't really know how to raise me because again, like single mother, she didn't know like your little boy's watching fucking Japanese girls with big eyeballs. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen to his sexuality down the road. But, I start collecting these cards and she's just like, okay, this could be a good thing because my father had collected a shit ton of baseball trading cards for me before he died. And she was like, well, this might teach him the value of these cards and stuff like that. Meanwhile, I don't really have any valuable Pokemon cards and I never did sell my baseball cards. So I liked the cards, but I never really did play the game that much and sort of slacked off on the card collecting. But I will say that I have a pretty vivid memory of the first time I considered like game collecting, and it was I was in a little specialty shop that wasn't even a game shop. It was like it was almost the equivalent of like a Hot Topic, but they had a Japanese import of Pokemon Gold before the American version had come out. And I remember thinking, holy shit, that's incredible. And mom had asked, she was like, do you want it? But they were selling it for like $100. And I was like, no. I don't know Japanese. like what good's that gonna fucking do me? Doesn't do me any good. So I didn't ask for it. You know, Gold came out and it wound up being my absolute favorite Pokemon game, probably still to this day.
Yeah, I think Gold and Silver are probably my favorite ones too, but probably the remakes, because I mean they got more content. But
yeah, I really enjoyed Heart Gold a lot, and I wish I hadn't sold it because that is one of the more valuable ones now.
Yeah, it really is. It used to be hard as hell to find. I don't know if it is anymore. Let's talk starters for a minute.
Yeah,
All right. Who'd you pick in red and blue?
All
Who's
right.
your boy?
My boy is Bulbasaur.
Me too.
I was about to say, don't even start to try and shit talk me. I know your boy's Bulbasaur.
Yeah, I love me some Bulbasaur. Venusaur is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Oh, okay. Well, let's move on to
since I can't roast you on that.
Well, okay. In my opinion, I think Gold and Silver. Wait, no, that's not true. Oh no. Only Red and Blue. There's no wrong option to me. I like Bulbasaur. I like Squirtle, and I like Charmander. You can't go wrong with them. But Bulbasaur is my favorite.
Right.
Now, when we get to Gold and Silver, there is absolutely wrong options here. So, who's your boy now?
In Gold and Silver?
Yes.
For Alligator.
Hold on. I want to get a list of them all pulled up real quick. Here they are. Oh, those are out of order. Also, same. I fucking love for Alligator. He is probably my favorite overall pseudo legendary, I guess is what you'd call him back then. Because could you breed in Gold and Silver? I don't remember. Is that when that got introduced?
I feel like it is. I
know that's when genders got introduced. I just don't know. I didn't know if you could actually do the breeding mechanic yet, but I don't know why they would give him genders if you couldn't.
Right.
Anyway, I love for Alligator. He's like my favorite Pokemon that's outside of legendaries and shit like that. Next gen, which is Ruby and Sapphire. Did you play those?
I did not. I have to this day never played Ruby or Sapphire. Not even.
Really?
Did they remake those? Because I don't think I did that either.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I never played that.
Yeah, the Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, well, in that one, you had Trico, Torchic, or the legendary Mudkip meme. But Trico in that one, I fucking love Sceptile. Like, Trico is my boy in that one. Torchic's a good pick, too. I like Blaziken. I do not like Mudkip or his line. If you picked him, you're wrong. Diamond and Pearl, did you play those?
I did. Can I take a brief aside, though, because I just remembered something about those games that we were just talking about.
Okay.
So I had it bought for me, Pokemon Red and Pokemon Yellow. But when it came to Gold and Silver, I actually didn't ever buy it. It was one of the only times I've ever rented a handheld game. I would repeatedly rent Pokemon Silver. So I think Silver is the one that I was playing at the time from a Blockbuster Video. And the funny thing is that, like, I rented it, and Pokemon cartridges, like, there's one save file. Like, there's not any possibility of being able to keep your save file because you didn't keep a memory card at home or anything. So if somebody else rented that copy of the game and overwrote your save file, you were done for. But I had a sneaking suspicion that nobody else rented that game, so I put a big heavy black pen mark on the back of the box, and I just kept renting the same one over and over again. And
that's risky.
Yeah. So I never did beat it, but I beat a big reason Pokemon Gold's my favorite one is that it essentially has two campaigns, and I don't feel like I've played a single one since then that felt this way, because you beat the region of Gold and it lets you go back to the region of Pokemon Red. And so I had beaten the Elite Four the first time and was on my way and didn't ever make it past that until I eventually played Heart Gold much later on. Still didn't beat it that second time, but I at least got a couple gyms in. But yeah, I decided to take a break from it because people kept telling me I would outgrow it, and so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's now. I won't play the advanced one. And then I immediately played the DS one because I was just like, fuck you, I'm gonna play it. So the first DS one was Diamond and Pearl, right? Or am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had Diamond.
I had Pearl,
Yeah,
I
Pearl.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't like the stupid ass horse thing. They were both kind of garbage, but I liked the dragon looking one more than the horse.
Yeah. And, I thought that they had kind of jumped the shark. I feel like a lot of people did whenever it's just like, yeah, the legendaries in this one are like gods. Like they're literally like Arceus is literally the Pokemon god. Like, where do you go from there? But I enjoyed that one. I think more than you did. I think that that's like your least favorite one.
It's my second least favorite one, yes.
Yeah, but I did enjoy Diamond and Pearl quite a bit. I thought that was a good time. And that was, I believe, we were already hanging out. I'd already moved to where you guys lived, but were we doing Pokefriends yet?
I don't know, because I remember Diamond and Pearl came out when I was in college.
Yeah,
because I remember hanging out in between classes and going to Walmart and picking it up.
Right.
So I don't know. One
of the games, and it might not have been that one, it might have been Black and White, but one of the games we would all go over to Rhett's house, and not always all of us, because for a chunk of that they were watching Gundam Wing, like rewatching Gundam Wing, and we just sit around and watch TV and play Pokemon. And that's one of my better like memories of like not quite a kid, but definitely not quite an adult. Like, and the college time period makes it make a lot of sense. And I really appreciated that because, I've told you guys before about what made me kind of fall head over heels in love with this friend group is because I had grown up in an area where gaming was not tolerated. Video games were for faggots. And then I literally have friends who would send messages back and forth to each other and be like, Pokefriends tonight? Pokefriends tonight? Are we all gonna go over to Rhett's house and play Pokemon? And we were in college. And it's just like, yeah, I'll be your Pokefriend.
I don't think I ever got to be a part of that now that I think about it, because I think you
had moved before the rest of us. I think that
maybe.
I think that was it, because we had been playing D&D and you had to quit because you were moving. And I think that was that period of time when you were like the only one that was gone.
Possibly.
I could be wrong.
I mean, I can't think of any other reason I wouldn't have been there.
Mayo says, you see, this is where Bro-Op's canonical beginning comes from. It really kind of is, because like my friends group, it weirdly has been kind of like an estranged family, because like we became adults and moved to various different places to try to seek education and employment. And then we've just kind of like shifted and amalgamated as the years have gone by. And then Pokemon Black and White came out, and I decided I didn't want to be friends with any of these guys because it was a terrible fucking video game.
Well, you didn't tell me your starter first. You glossed over that. What'd you pick in Diamond and Pearl?
Is Diamond and Pearl the one with Infernape?
Yes.
Okay. I picked Empoleon and regretted it and went back and traded and bred an Infernape.
Okay.
Did I escape judgment?
No. I like Infernape the least of those three.
Yeah.
I love me some Torterra. Torterra's a bad motherfucker. And I really like Empoleon. And this was the second time we had got fire and fighting in a row.
Oh right, because Torchic does that.
Yeah, so everybody was like, "What the fuck?" And then they just were like, "Oh, they love it. Let's keep doing it." And so the next Black and White, I haven't played those, but that had a fire and fighting. And then that brings us to X and Y, because neither one of us played Black and White, right?
Not true. I played Pokemon White, I believe.
Really? Okay.
Because like that's my least favorite one. Like Pokemon Black and White's my least favorite one. And when I have a whole story behind that. So I was with mom as an adult, and when I was young, before mom had decided to embrace the whole trading card thing, but after, I was carrying my stuffed Pikachu everywhere. Mom, I remember we had an argument in the car, and she was just like, you know what? 1 year from now, you won't still like Pokemon. And I was just like, you're wrong. And then a year from then, I was like, I still like Pokemon. And she was like, yeah, but not as much. And she just copped out of it. It was like a bet. We made like $100 bet, and she just copped out of it. And then I randomly brought that up. I was just like, that's been like 10 years ago, and I still like Pokemon. And she was like, you do? And I was like, yeah. And she bought me a 3DS and Pokemon White that day.
Okay, I remember this.
Yeah,
now.
But I wish that I had gotten Black or White too, because it was like, from what I understand, it was the better game, because the plot of Pokemon White is the dumbest plot to me. because that's the one where the bad guys are basically PETA, and they're like, you know, training Pokemon is wrong, making them fight each other is wrong. And I do not support real life PETA, but it's hard to argue with these guys because you're fucking enslaving these animals and making them fight. And every single thing they said in the story just sounded like some fucking slavery apologist shit. Like, it was just like, no, Pokemon like being our friends. It's just like, is that your only argument?
No, Mayo, we're not to X and Y yet.
Yeah, that was the plot of Black and White. I hated it, and I had to make myself beat that game because...
See, I had to force myself to beat Diamond and Pearl because I thought it was so shit.
Yeah, I didn't mind Diamond and Pearl story, but I really rather disliked the story of Pokemon White or Black, whichever fucking one I had. And then after that was X and Y.
Yes.
I seriously considered not getting X because I was so disappointed in Black. And this began it didn't begin because I had told myself I was done with Pokemon after Gold and Silver, but this began just the further falling down the stairs of denial because I was just like, yeah, I'm not playing another one again, and I got that one. And we kind of skipped over Heart Gold because Heart Gold was in the same engine as Black and White, and Heart Gold was for a long time legit my favorite because not only was it a remake of my favorite one in the newest engine, but it finally added something that I wanted them to have had the entire time, which was your lead Pokemon followed you no matter what fucking Pokemon it was. So it was like Pokemon Yellow where Pikachu's sprite followed you around, only whoever was lead in your party followed you around, and I adored that. It made me feel like I had agency in the story, almost like Ash from the anime, only I could have whatever fucking Pokemon I wanted walking around with me. I thought it was really cool. And then the next game came out, and that's not how it worked. They got rid of the pixel art, like, you know, Black and White and Heart Gold and Soul Silver was kind of a mix of like 3D polygons and pixel art, and I thought it looked really cool, and it retained kind of the spirit of the original without, you know, forsaking its roots. And then X and Y came out and it was full 3D, and while there were some things I liked about it, I felt like it lost a lot of that traditional retro Pokemon aesthetic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I miss the old sprites. They felt more, I don't know the word for it, like alive. I don't know.
And you know, I don't think people who didn't grow up with it would agree with this, but there's something about pixel art in that you have to bury so much expression in such little space that, like, once you upgrade to polygons and you just wrap a texture around a ball, like that's not really a face anymore. Like, whenever you're doing like really detailed pixel art, it does have a lot more charm to it. But there were a couple things that I still thoroughly enjoyed about X and Y that it brought to the table. I liked that your character had a nickname. Like, you had your actual name and you had your nickname, and you had like friends in the story that called you by your nickname and things like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that one still had an actual rival, right? Or am I wrong?
You kind of had several rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole like group of friends, the kids in that game. You basically fought all of them throughout the story.
Yeah, and I feel like that's not the worst way to do it. But we'll talk about that some more as we move forward. Now, you're going to ask me what starter I picked in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what the starters are in that one.
Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie.
I picked Fennekin.
I really, really like Greninja.
Really?
Like a lot, yes. Froakie is, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I might have went with Chespin the first time I beat it.
Actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking I went with Greninja. I think I got a Fennekin later through a trade.
Yeah, I do not like Chestnut nearly as much as the rest of the grass starters. I don't hate him, but I do think that Delphox and Greninja are better than him.
Yeah. But this kind of started a trend with me, whereas like originally I had been picking grass types, but I think I've pretty consistently picked the fire type for years now.
Really?
It just keeps working out that winds up being my favorite. But I know that right now, for many of you who are also as old as we are, this is just us rattling off the history of Pokemon to people who already know the history of Pokemon. But I feel like we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about Sun and Moon, because I did not like that game.
Yeah, I hate Sun and Moon. They are by far my least favorite games. I absolutely fucking hate Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you lead a rant right now.
Yeah, like Rhett and Ian that will argue, oh well, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon fixed everything, and I'm just like, that's great, but I shouldn't have to buy the game and start over again. Like I didn't give anywhere near enough of a fuck to give that shit another try, because they took away gyms, they replaced them with those stupid ass island trials or whatever, and you had to fight some totem Pokemon, and then you kind of fought a gym leader, but not really. And like some of the totem Pokemon were kind of hard, you know, like some of them were a little difficult, but like that doesn't make up for gyms. Like I hated that shit.
Yeah.
And you had to fly in between islands because it was based on Hawaii, and like I hate that game.
Yeah. So in my kind of like young adulthood, I really hated the term casual, because as we were in like those years of our lives, like a casual gamer was like a slur. Like you were called a casual if you were bad at video games. You were called a casual if you didn't really know anything about video games. And so I didn't really like that word. I didn't like when people talked about games getting casualized. And then I saw it happen. Because that's exactly what happened to Pokemon.
Exactly what happened to it. And as much as X and Y are probably my second favorite ones, and they started this trend, so I like have a love-hate relationship with them.
I think
go ahead.
I think ultimately it's because, don't get me wrong, nothing is stopping adults who grew up on Pokemon from continuing to play Pokemon, but every new Pokemon game is still a game that's predominantly aimed at children, and every new Pokemon game is aimed at a different group of children because people age and have new babies. So like whereas our generation grew up on the coattails of fucking NES games with no saves and only passwords, like our games were just harder. Like that's all there is to it. Like, you know, and our parents' games were harder than that, you know? So like by the time you get to games that are meant for like Gen Z kids, like it's kind of watered down because they didn't have to get through that grueling experience of having games like the ones that we grew up playing. The problem is that now me as an adult who loves Pokemon so much that I want to keep seeing the franchise grow and evolve, it didn't feel like a true spiritual successor anymore, because I am used to the game that's about a kid who leaves home to surmount a sincerely incredible challenge against the shittiest kid he's ever known. Like every rival for a long time was literally like the shittiest kid you've ever known. This biggest piece of shit, doesn't respect his Pokemon, is asshole, and he picks the Pokemon that's strong against yours. In Gold and Silver, he's a literal fucking criminal. And then Sun and Moon instituted the change that stuck with this new one of your rival picking the Pokemon that's weak to yours. And I am not against that being a character, but it should not be the rival. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're trying to get, what point they're trying to get across, because like he really just seems like a loser. Like what feeling is supposed to make me feel as a player? Am I supposed to feel bad for him? Am I supposed to feel like I'm training him? I don't enjoy that as much.
Yeah, and like this will probably be the most okay boomer thing I'll say tonight, but I think the real problem with them getting easier, like you said, is the newer generations of kids are coming along, and these kids grew up with more advanced technology than we did, so their attention spans are far fucking shorter.
Yeah.
So they have to have this easy mode shit, or they'll just go play something else. Like they'll just drop it and go do something else, because they grew up with smartphones and stuff like that, and we didn't.
Yeah.
So like they've got to have it a little dumbed down so that they'll keep playing it. And I get it, like they got to fucking make sales, but like for us it sucks ass. Like I fucking hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as a consequence, like we both kind of had the same attitude, whereas we were like, this game is fucking easy. Like I normally kind of have to slog through a Pokemon game because it's typically kind of challenging for me. Like for example, I remember when I went through Heart Gold Soul Silver, I kept running out of money. Like I was literally running out of money because I wasn't saving before fights. I was just like, we did that when we were kids, but like I kind of feel like that's save scumming. I'm not going to do that. And I would lose so many times, I would run out of money, and I would accidentally like retard my Feraligatr because he wasn't getting to finish the fight that he reached XP level on. So like he wouldn't ever actually evolve. And that, I remember that being like especially hard for me. But then you play, you know, Sun and Moon, and like after every fight, it's just like, oh, here's a full restore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what really pissed me off about Sun and Moon is every time you beat Hal, which by the way he's the worst rival in the history of rivals. But every time you beat Hal, he heals your entire team. Now, Sword and Shield continues this trend, and I hate it there too. But I don't know, it just makes it.
It feels less predominant in Sword and Shield.
Yeah, like it saves you some time because I mean it's really no different than walking down the road to the fucking Poke Center in most cases. But if you're in like the middle of a cave and you fight your rival and then you have to continue on to fight somebody else, like the bad guy of team whatever of that game at the end of that cave, you shouldn't get a free heal in there. Like I don't agree with that. Now if you beat that and you're going to like your next town or whatever, I don't care if they heal me after that because it's no different than me flying to a Poke Center, healing, and then taking off the next town. That's fine. So something else I hated about these newer games is the fucking experience share. Like in the old games, at least you had to unlock it and like put it on, whereas this one's you just have it from the get-go, and it's like, all right, your whole team's the same level no matter what, and you will be overpowered as shit.
This is where Chase and I am going to actually differ in our opinions, because I think that that's a glorious decision, purely just because I think it takes some of the busy work out of it. Like, I don't enjoy grinding, and so that has been a blessing for me. But likewise, I want to bring up something I haven't even heard you bring up. When was the last time you got lost in a Pokemon game?
I don't know. Probably like the Ice Cavern in Gold.
Pokemon used to have this iconic dungeon, at least two, because there would be like your like Mount Moon, and then there'd at least be something before the Elite Four that was more labyrinthine, and it was almost like a fucking Zelda dungeon. It was maze-like. It had puzzles in it. There would eventually be there would be several trainer fights, but there would eventually be one big trainer fight with some bad guy trainers before you could eventually leave. But there was typically like a huge puzzle exploration element to getting through these really grueling caves filled with really strong Pokemon. The final path before the Elite Four in Sword and Shield is just a big S. It's just a big curvy road. And you're done with it in about 5 minutes. And I feel like it just wraps up the entirety of the changes to this series, because they used to have such depth to the level design and to the like challenge of it. And I think that they've realized, or hear me out, we could make the same money and not do any of that.
And also take out a bunch of shit and sell it to you as DLC later.
God, don't remind me of Assassin's Creed 2. But despite everything, I really did not want to get Pokemon Sword. I really didn't want to get it because I'd heard so many people talk shit on it. Hell, even Girlfriend Reviews talked shit on it. I love those guys. And, Girlfriend Reviews, like the lead reviewer person, the girlfriend that doesn't even really play video games, I thought she was going to be like, yeah, well, my boyfriend says it's trash, but I think it's cute. Instead, she was like, this is like representative of everything that's gone wrong with video games. I was like, well, fuck, dude. But I got a Christmas bonus, and I was like, well, fuck it. This way I don't have to pay for it. And I got it, and I have enjoyed it. I have actually thoroughly enjoyed Pokemon Sword. Yes, there are things that I can criticize about it, but I fucking like playing that game. And especially when I'm going to be able to put my Pokemon Go Pokemon into it whenever I'm able to do that, because there's a game I used to really enjoy playing. We didn't even talk about that. We didn't talk about the Summer of Go. The Summer of Go, Chase.
Fuck Pokemon Go.
I've seen so many posts that's just like, I wish I loved anything as much as I loved Pokemon Go the summer it came out.
Well, that's because it had such potential, and then they dropped the fucking ball.
Well, I think we were all so excited to see where it would go, because it came out, it worked surprisingly well for a brand new game in that market, with it being like a GPS game, but it was so under-featured that we were like, oh my god, there must be so much cool shit coming. And it's been so long, and there's a couple more features.
Yeah, like, can you even battle each other?
You can.
Yet?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can battle each other. You can
I haven't played it in like 2 years.
Yeah, you can, but none of it's really the way it ought to be. Artemis in chat in our podcast, by the way, you can listen to our podcast live by pledging on Patreon or heading by our store. Artemis asked, is Sword and Shield worth $60?
that's a tough one.
I'd say if you have disposable income, yes. If you are uncertain of whether or not you want to spend money on it, no. I'd wait until you're able to get it for 30 or 40, personally.
Which will never happen because Nintendo does not do that.
You know, you could get a used copy.
Yeah, you could use copy.
Yeah, like I have it digitally because, you know, my Christmas bonus was an Amazon gift card, so I just digitally purchased it using the Amazon gift card. Normally, I don't do that with Switch games because I want to be able to resell it. But
yeah, I would personally say it's probably worth 40, 45 at the most.
Yeah.
Any more than that, if you're not a hardcore Pokemon fan, fuck it, you don't need it.
Yeah. I think another thing that I'm excited about is that, you know, for a long time, they had this really weird trend of let's release 2 versions of the same game. And then a year or 2 down the road, let's re-release it with a bunch of features that should have had to begin with. And now they're not going to do that anymore. And they're just going to release DLC. And I'm excited for that. I think that's a better move. Now, I know you'd think that it's unreasonably priced.
Oh, it absolutely is. Like, now, don't get me wrong. They might not have shown us everything that's going to be in it yet. I'm just going off that direct that we had not too long ago that first showed it, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? This is $30 damn. Like, that's half the cost of the game. Like, that's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, I'm really fucking excited for it, even though I know I'm getting ripped off because, you know, I'm gonna steal something from you here. This is not my diagnosis. This is actually something Chase figured out all on his own. But Pokemon Sword and Shield feels exactly like a game that was in development for 3DS and then got ported to Switch, because the bulk of the game is just traditional X and Y shit, and then there's this big arbitrary Breath of the Wild area that's just thrown in there. Like the whole game should have felt like that. Like but it doesn't, and instead it's just like, I almost want to compare it to like Safari Zone. Like, yeah, it kind of connects everything, but like that's easy. Like they could have literally had the whole game leveled out already and just be like, hey Greg, we got to move some shit around and put this big arbitrary field in the middle of it all, and they would have that done in a month. Like, and then you get to make it feel like a Switch game, kinda. But I think the reason I'm so excited for this DLC, even though they're making me pay more, is that I want more of those open world areas. I think it's fucking dope. It's closer to what I always wanted out of a console Pokemon game. I like being able to see the Pokemon wandering around in the world. I will say that it's really fucking surreal. I don't think that they addressed how unusual it would be to just see thug-ass Machops wandering around, or Machamps, rather. I guess a Machop wouldn't be so freaky, but to literally just be riding your bike through the forest and get just run down by a Machamp. like it's a little fucking weird.
It indeed is. Like, and to go a little bit more off of that whole 3DS thing that I stand by completely, is you can just look at the graphics of some areas. Like, it's straight up a fucking 3DS game. Like, just go look at the damn trees in the wild area. They are absolutely horrible. Like, compare those trees to like Breath of the Wild trees, and you can just see it right there of how bad it is. Now, and most people who listen to me in this podcast or in this Discord in general know that I'm not the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild. I think they fucked those cell shaded graphics up. Like, I think Wind Waker is fucking charming and Breath of the Wild is ugly as fuck. Like, it's just too saturated. The colors are weird. I don't like it. But it looks a fuck ton better than Sword and Shield.
Yep. Yeah. I would really like to see a Pokemon game on the scale of Sword and Shield. And I used to make a lot of excuses and be like, well, this game's like a prototype for the next one. But now they've done that to me twice because, you know, Breath of the Wild came out and I was like, yeah, it really does feel like they made their engine and decided they were done. Like, they didn't bother making a whole game. They just kind of threw a couple of quests in their engine and they were done. And I'd be like, well, it's sort of prototyping their next game. And now you caught me saying it about Pokemon, but you can't just keep giving them that out. You're absolutely right. You got to make a whole game at some point, Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, see, I kind of feel like the same thing we said about Pokemon also applies to Breath of the Wild. The whole, like, kids these days don't have enough of an attention span. Like, there's 4 dungeons in that game. That's stupid. And they're piss poor easy. Like, they are mind-numbingly easy. And I think that's another product of just how games have changed over the years.
I've said this before a couple of times, but never on podcast. I still think that we have finally reached the point where we need to split this franchise off into two different series. I think there needs to be a Pokemon series that's about adult trainers that it isn't an adult game. It's still a rated E game, but the difficulty scale is higher, and it continues this trend of like difficult technical games. And then the other series is about kids, and it can still have a lot of the same mechanics, but it can be easier. Hell, they could even interconnect like two different versions. Like they could have the same engine and everything, but just one of them be easy because it's for kids, and one of them be for man children like me and Chase.
Yeah.
I would be so pumped for that. I would love a game where you play as a Pokemon professor. I've been waiting for that for a while.
That would be cool. Oh, something I want to say before I forget it again. We were talking about how nowadays your rivals take the one that's weak to you. So like you're strong against them, and how stupid that is. I think Sword and Shield kind of did it right. Like your rival still takes the one that you're strong against, but the fucking champion takes the other one.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight that bitch later.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. Mayo says, why not just give the players easy mode and hard mode settings? Chase, doesn't at least one of the Pokemons have like a harder difficulty you can unlock?
No. What you're thinking of is Black and White, and this is stupid. It has an easy mode, but you can't play it until you beat the normal mode.
I regret asking. That is the fucking dumbest shit.
Yes, it is absolutely stupid.
But yeah, like I do think, Pokemon especially needs New Game Plus. Like it needs to...
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
It needs to let you ramp up the difficulty. Like basically, here's exactly what I would do. Let the person start over. Let the person start over with their whole team of Pokemon. Don't explain it. Just let me go through the same story, but add 100 to the level of every Pokemon in the game. And then it's just like, yeah, I'll just keep leveling up my team. I can catch new Pokemon that will already be up to speed. Let's go. Like whatever, dude.
Yeah, I agree with that too. That would be fucking awesome. And also another thing, just to prove that I'm not being totally biased against Pokemon these days, saying that the DLC is too expensive. The Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC came out like a week ago now, or maybe only a few days ago.
Yeah.
No, a week ago today, actually, I think. Anyway, that shit's also $30, and I said, fuck no, and I didn't get it because it's like 2 hours worth of story content and some new super bosses, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this $30?
Yep.
Like, I'm absolutely not buying that until it gets cheaper, and I'm like huge Kingdom Hearts guy, so like, fuck DLC being half the cost of the game, or in Kingdom Hearts case, the full cost of the game by now, because that game's been out for a year, and there's no way that's still $60.
Yep. Kingdom Hearts is another example of a series that I decided I was done with that so far I've actually stuck by. Because I just didn't really want to get back into it. That's not even me trying to shit on the franchise. I'm burnt out. Not quite to the point to where I'm just constantly shitting on it verbally. When I go back and listen to our old podcast, every time Kingdom Hearts is brought up, I have something dickheaded to say about it, and it makes me cringe every time.
Well, fuck, 3 was not good, so don't worry about it. I think it's probably my third least favorite Kingdom Hearts game. Yeah. Very, very close to second least favorite.
You know what I got to thinking about recently that was just fucking out of left field?
What's that?
This idea we had that we were all going to be gym trainers.
Yeah, I think about that every now and then. I still do that sometimes sitting at work. I'll just be like, I'm going to make a grass team. And I'll just sit down and make what I would have my grass gym top be.
So who started this idea? Was it Ian?
I want to say it was Ian, Ian or William, somebody that, because it started at anime conventions, because there were people that were doing that already.
Yeah.
Like, you'd go to an anime convention, and there'd be a guy sitting in the corner of the game room or whatever, and he'd have like a sign that says, dark gym or whatever, and you'd beat him, and he'd literally give you a badge. Like, even if it was fucking paper that he just printed out. Like, we thought it was cool.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do that, and we just sort of never followed through with it.
Yeah, like, we talked about it. That's the thing. Like, when you're a creative type, and you've got creative type friends, there will be a lot of times when you talk about doing something, and you'll be like full force gonna do it. But unless you do it, it doesn't get done. So like there have been a lot of different ideas that we've had that we've just talked about and we never did. And that was one of them. We were all going to have gyms, and they asked me, at the time I wasn't playing Pokemon, but they were like, well, if you were, what would you want to be? And I was like, well, ghost type. And weirdly, that's literally my team right now. Like, I have almost entirely ghost like hybrids right now, just because I want to, not because I feel like it's practical in any way, just because I want to.
I was about to say I fucked up and did that one time. I can't remember which game it was.
I think
it might have been
with you. It was Sun, because I remember you complaining about it. You were like, "Yeah, I made a ghost type team, and now I'm just getting my ass beat."
Yeah, I think because it was that Mimikyu. It's one of the totem Pokemon. It's ghost type, and ghost is weak to ghost, and that fucker was faster than every ghost I had. So that was a very hard totem fight for me, and that's when I realized, whoops, I made a lot of my team ghost,
Yeah.
and then I had to do some swapping up.
Yeah, so if I run into that problem, I am fucked. But not my whole team isn't ghost. Like, there's some exceptions. Like, I kind of was looking at it like, okay, this is gonna be my ghost fairy team, because I really like Galarian Rapidash, and my wife's nickname is Candy Corn. Sometimes she's got a lot of stupid nicknames, but I named my my Galarian Rapidash Candy Corn after her because it's like it looks like a fucking like cotton candy unicorn. But outside of that, I'd say probably the whole fucking rest of the team is ghost, so I'm just boned. Did you like Mega Evolutions?
Some of them. I thought it was a little bit too
Digimon?
let's just copy Digimon.
Yeah. Where did this whole gimmick thing start? Was it Sun and Moon, or was it earlier than that?
It was earlier than that. It was Mega Evolutions were the first ones. Like that was the first gimmick, and then we moved to Z moves, and now we're at Gigantamax.
Yeah. So for us oldies, like, we just not want a new Pokemon game, a new area, new mons, and maybe some mechanical upgrades. But it seems like they've had some sort of like super gimmicky thing every time that like drastically changes the landscape of the Pokédex. And I really disliked Mega Evolutions, because they were slapping Mega Evolutions on things that hadn't even finished their evolutionary chain yet. like if it's only evolved once and you give it a Mega Evolution, there goes my imagination. I was imagining what the next 2 evolutions would have liked on that bitch. So that was kind of distressing for me. And
who has a Mega Evolution that's not fully evolved?
Man, I don't remember off the top of my head, but there are some.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. What's the fighting type that's in Brawl, or not Brawl, but just Smash in general?
Lucario?
Yeah, that's only his second form.
Lucario only turns into Lucario.
No.
Like, that's his last form. It's Riolu and then Lucario.
That's what I'm saying, is that like he has a Mega Evolution.
Yeah, I know, but he's fully evolved, and then he has a Mega.
No, because he only has 2. My whole point is that we could have seen more evolutions out of things, because most...
Oh, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying something like Charmander has a Mega Evolution, but Charizard doesn't.
What's funny is I actually would like that. I would like, for example, a Mega Evolution for Haunter, because I don't fucking like Gengar. You know?
Well, Gengar's Mega looks like Haunter, so it kind of works. Well, it looks more like Haunter.
It's subjective. I hate Gengar's Mega, and I only slightly dislike Gengar's Gigantamax. I wish there was a Gigantamax for Haunter for a very dumb fucking reason, and it's because the old school Pokemon manga is raw as shit. And the only one I've ever picked up and read, they had like a whole SWAT team like descending down into this temple to try and kill a giant Haunter. And so I want a Gigantamax Haunter, goddammit. I already have a Dynamax one, and he's cool. But
I will say that I hate basically both Mega Evolutions of Mewtwo. Like, I don't know what the fuck they were smoking.
I like one of them, the one that looks a little bit more like Frieza, but the other one I don't like.
No.
So what's this movie coming out that people are shitting their pants over?
It's like a remake of the first movie, but it looks like trash.
It's weird because I'm seeing a lot of people getting nostalgic and excited for it, but I haven't been keeping up with it, so I don't have any right to criticize, I guess.
Yeah, I've only seen like one trailer of it, and I do not like the art style. It looks horrible to me.
How much have you looked into Temtem?
I've watched some of the bigger streamers play it because, like I watched, Tim the Tatman and all them, and like he usually plays with Dr. Lupo and Ninja, and like they all play Fortnite together. Well, they also play a bunch of other games together too, because they've all oddly kind of backed off of Fortnite. Like I guess they're finally getting burnt out on it, or maybe they're waiting for a new season. I don't fucking know.
Hell, maybe several of their partner deals expired.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Ninja he recently got a skin in Fortnite. Like it's just straight up him in Fortnite, and it actually looks really cool.
Yeah, I actually saw his reaction video to that.
Yeah, that was really neat. Anyway, I'm getting off track. They all played Tim together recently, and that was actually really funny because it was like watching what I imagine watching us is like, because they're all like our age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a few of them are a little bit older. I don't know how old Tim is, but they're all playing Tim together, and I'm just like, fuck, I want to play Pokemon online with my friends. but the thing that sticks out to me the most, they're just all like, yeah, it's great, but the only thing wrong with it right now is that it's really easy to get to the end of all they have out right now because it's early access. So like the game's not finished, and you can get to what they have done very fast.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but one day it should be awesome.
Artemis asks, how long is Sword and Shield?
I think my stream file was like 30 hours long, maybe a little bit less than that, but I also played some of that offline to get candies that I didn't have to do. So I'd say it's probably a good 20 or 25 hours.
Yeah.
And that's if you walk around and really explore and all this other shit. Like I know people who beat the game in like 8 hours the day it came out, and they're not even like speedrunners. Like Witwix, he beat it in like 7 or 8 hours.
Well, I like a game that gives me avenues to get obsessed about stupid shit that doesn't matter. So like the moment I got into the wild area, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna catch shit and just wonder trade them for like 4 days.
Well, see, that's something else we can talk about real quick. Is that's been my most fun thing about Sword and Shield so far. Is one night, me and William were talking on Facebook or something, and he was just like, "Hey, you want to do raids in Pokemon?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I do." So we just went around and raided for like 2 hours, just killing everything we could, and got a fuck ton of candies, which will absolutely break your game, by the way, because those level up your Pokemon like insane. And we just raided in Pokemon for like a couple hours. It felt like what I imagined Tim is like. It was like an MMO experience. Like it was really fun, and that's the whole reason I bought Nintendo Online for my stream account, because I thought maybe some of our viewers would want to raid with me, but then I wound up beating the game pretty quickly. And I think the only people in chat that really played it, that was super interested in it, was I can't remember who my rabbit was named after.
Viking Ninja?
Viking, yeah. I think Viking was like the only person in chat who really, really played, and he didn't come to like the last few streams. I guess he was busy, whatever. But anyway, there was no one in chat to raid with, so like that time has passed.
And that's just sort of one of the downfalls of being like, it's not fair to call us medium-sized compared to other like content creators, but we are kind of in that funk of like, we have fans, we have enough fans to think we're gonna have a lot of people to play something with, but not enough fans to be right. Like, because
what's funny to me is it's almost like we have separate fans. Like I have people that'll come to my stream but not yours, and you'll have people that come to yours and not mine.
Well, I'm kind of thankful for that. I am, because when I had to take stream responsibilities off of you because your computer was getting outdated, I felt like nobody knew anybody but me. And now that they know both of us, they have preference, and that's great, because we're, like I mentioned before, not remotely the same person. So like I think that's good. I think there should be people who want to come to yours and not mine, and vice versa. But like, I
gotta figure out what I want to play next.
You do. You really do. Everybody ping Chase until he finally decides what he's gonna stream.
Don't do that. I will ban Jesse.
Because like he keeps saying he's gonna poll everybody, and then he keeps forgetting or not doing it. So just ping Super 64 all hours of the day. So we kind of introduced an interesting segue, which is so this month our community game was actually gonna be Smash Brothers, and it would have worked out great because we've brought money to pay for Smash, or for Nintendo Online accounts for cast members, and I thought by now, like, it's been how long has the Switch been out?
3 years. Will this be the third year at Christmas?
Maybe, I don't know, but like,
hang on, I'll look it up.
I kind of figured more fans would have one by now. I thought we'd have enough that would justify being like, okay, we're going to play Smash. And I was wrong.
It came out March the 3rd, 2017.
Yep.
So yeah, we're approaching the 3rd year.
Yeah. So like, I'm just surprised. I'm not sitting here advocating for the Nintendo Switch, and sure as shit Chase isn't. But it has been difficult to try to come up with community game stuff. So we've got kind of an experimental solution to that. That if you're listening to this on Friday, that stream is tonight. Yeah, on the 31st. We are going to try doing Steam remote play together, multiplayer, so that people who are pledged at the play video games with us tier or higher can actually play fucking games with us for once, even if they don't have it. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping we enjoy it, and we can still possibly play other games that aren't like couch co-op games. It just requires everybody to own the fucking game.
I feel like sometimes it's okay to just be like,
I agree.
Look, this is the case. Sorry. Like,
here's my thing.
We get it.
Once Chrono has access to more games, which, you know, without digging too much into business secrets at my other job, is not soon. But once Chrono has access to more games that we can put on our store, I feel like it's completely justified to be like, hey, we sell this game. You can buy it from us and play it with us, especially if we're ever able to offer discounts to patrons, like consistent discounts. Right now, the problem with that is there are certain games that we're only allowed to take a certain cut out of. But like if I were, like, we earn 20% from our sales, right? So theoretically, I could put a 20% discount on games for patrons and be like, hey, you're already paying us on Patreon. There's no reason you should pay us again, essentially. So we forfeit our cut of the game so that you can get a healthy discount. And I feel like that's a good way of incentivizing it and just being like, yeah, I know you got to buy this game to play with us, but I can at least cut you a fucking deal, you know?
Yeah. And 20% sounds like a lot, but sometimes it isn't.
It
depending
really
on what's being sold. Because like sometimes we barely make enough to like buy a Coke.
Yeah. What? Chase, let's talk about your skin tags.
You know, I was just playing with one.
It's what you were jacking before the stream.
Oh God, that's gross.
Try to slam the podcast shut on that.
No, absolutely not.